So hello and welcome to the video. Now today is the 31st of March 2025 and that is going to prove to be a very significant day for people associated with the British Airways Executive Club for a couple of reasons. And the first is that tonight, for the first time in the club's history, tonight at midnight everybody's membership year will end, and then tomorrow morning everybody's new membership year will start. It's taken BA about 2 years to get to this point of aligning everybody. It's been complicated, and even a couple of days ago I was seeing online comments from people asking to have this change explained to them because they still didn't understand it. And for people like me, it's brilliant because I have spent a large part of my life in the last couple of years trying to explain BA's membership years to people either in videos or in comments. So for me, it's a positive development. For a lot of people though, it's a bit annoying. But the second, more significant change is that also tonight at midnight, the Executive Club will die. Somebody at BA's Waterside headquarters will take it to the bottom of the rather attractive garden they have just outside and will shoot it, probably a shallow grave, and it will be gone. So when we wake up tomorrow morning, all sharing the same new membership year, we'll all be part of the club rather than the Executive Club. And of course there's an irony in dropping the word executive from the name, because going forward it will only be executives who have their travel paid for by their employer who will have any hope at all of achieving status in this new club. Oh, and those who have a very large personal discretionary travel budget. And if that's you, good luck. But for me and thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of others, that isn't us. So we are effectively homeless when it comes to One World status. Now, the Executive Club has been good to me. It's probably been too good, actually, which is part of the reason why BA has decided to go and kill it. So I didn't want today to pass uncommemorated. So I'm heading up to Heathrow to have one last hurrah and to have a little bit of a wake for the Executive Club. I booked myself a cheapo early evening flight out, so I get to spend a few hours in the lounge. I'll still have status tomorrow in the new club. That will be carried over for some time, but it did feel like a significant day that I wanted to mark. And sitting in a lounge is fun, but sitting in a lounge with others is even more fun. So I have a Patreon group. I do mention it occasionally in my videos, but I put word out that this is what I was going to do. And I think about a dozen people have done the same. They've all bought themselves tickets somewhere for later on this afternoon, and they're going to come and join me in the lounge. I'm travelling in business class to Barcelona this evening, and I promised myself I wouldn't make another Club Europe video unless I had some sort of angle to add to the experience, and I think today qualifies. So in this video, I'm going to head up to Heathrow. I'm actually taking the Heathrow Express today. Extravagance, you may scream, but as I'll explain a little bit later on, it needn't be that extravagant. I'll then spend a little bit of time in the lounge and then cover the flight down to Barcelona. So if that sounds good, stick around. Hi, I'm Matt and this is Matt's Planet. I aim to entertain, educate and inspire with my travel adventures from planning to execution. I'll show you how you can travel in style for a lot less than you'd think. So subscribe so you can come with me. I had it in my head that the Heathrow Express was the most expensive railway journey in the UK per mile travelled, costing £25 for that 16-mile trip. Although a quick Google suggests that that title now belongs to the Luton Dart, which charges 3 times this per mile to convey you between Luton Airport Parkway Station and the airport. £25 is still a lot though, but you can get hefty discounts on the HEX if you book in advance. I also have a rail card and so was able to get a one-way fare down to £11 for this trip. Coming from Folkestone, it means I have to change twice to get to Heathrow, at St Pancras and Paddington, and I should also factor in the cost of the tube, but as I've been changing onto the Elizabeth line in Stratford, the costs are not broadly out of line, as the Lizzie line charges you a hefty premium for access to the airport. And despite needing one more change, taking the HEX was a little quicker than changing in Stratford. Another handy hack is that Star Alliance Gold card holders can upgrade for free to the Business First cabin, as can Gold guest list members of the BA scheme, even if the windows are equally filthy in both classes. Not that anyone checked my ticket on this trip or on the return, and not that it makes any real difference to the experience you'll have during the 15 minutes it takes, but it is a handy hack to know about. So off the train and into the terminal, and the F-wing is up the complete opposite end to where you arrive on public transport. I guess you're supposed to arrive by chauffeur-driven limo, which can drop you directly outside. If you're now having to drop 20 large ones a year on travel to earn the right to use the F-wing, you can probably afford something smarter than public transport to get you to the airport. But when I did get there, the first wing was delightfully quiet. This was around midday. I was very quickly through the very efficient new style security where you can leave everything in your bag, and through the magical time tunnel. I'm still going to have access to this calm and efficient facility until the end of September, when my grandfathered gold status expires, and it is certainly something I can live without. But it is a nice perk of maintaining emerald status within one world, even if that's not done with BA. Bye bye, horsey, for now at least. The gang had already started to assemble on the balcony when I got there, so a fun-packed few hours ensued. The pseudo pop-up food offering that day was jerk chicken, although all of the food was a little underwhelming that afternoon, truth be told. But the drinks were good, and it's always fun to hang out with friends, talking nonsense about planes and airports. Check out my Patreon account if you want to join us next time. The hours flashed by, and before I knew it, it was time to head to the gate. I was cutting it a little fine, but BA wants you to get to your gate 20 minutes before departure. I got there 28 minutes before the scheduled departure time, and not only had the gate already closed, I'd already been offloaded from the flight. This was a first for me. I know BA's internal focus is on improving its on-time departure statistics, but breaking their own rules to achieve this is probably not the way to go. Although the boarding pass suggested I needed to be at the gate 40 minutes before departure, so who knows. I think the guys knew they'd been perhaps premature in offloading me, and after a call I was quickly reinstated. They did seem keen for me to blame my tardiness on getting stuck at the security checkpoint, but I wouldn't play that game as I knew I hadn't been tardy and was actually 8 minutes early. Indeed, there were still people waiting to board in the jet bridge when I was finally allowed through, so all was well in the end. It was just a bit odd. But onto this 17-year-old A320, which now, quite amazingly, has 30 more seats crammed into it than on delivery in 2007. Many people have commented that they found BA's status decisions to actually be liberating, as it means they're now freed from feeling they have to fly on BA. And this kind of penny-pinching seat densification is one example of what we've put up with without really questioning it for years now. Not that competitor airlines are much better, in Europe at least. Seat 2A today, and I was indeed the last passenger to board, so I could see that the flight would be likely loaded that evening. And here's BA's premium cabin seat on this route. 30 inches of seat pitch on this equipment, although it felt like less. That's the same as some low-cost carriers offer their economy passengers. You do still get a blocked middle seat though, handy for passengers who are considerably wider than they are tall. The aisle seat was free on this flight. A tray table and an economy cabin menu, even though business customers get fed and watered. So either BA can't be bothered to remove these, or they leave them there on the off chance that their premium customers decide to give them yet more money by buying extra stuff from the buy on board menu. The doors closed and we pushed back and set off into a clear London evening. I've been quite tough on BA so far in this review, but I think that's fair despite my ongoing annoyance with them. So how's the new club going? It's hard to be definitive without any insider knowledge, but there are some interesting clues which suggest it's not going well. Firstly, no one from BA has yet appeared in the media to justify or defend the changes. The silence is now deafening. Then Iberia announced the changes they are implementing to their loyalty program, and they've ended up offering permanent shortcuts and assistance in achieving status that BA doesn't. Perhaps that was IAG's response to the negativity that greeted BA's announcement, but it leaves BA's scheme looking even tougher to achieve status through than it did when it launched. Next, BA has had to add wording to the terms and conditions of how holidays will work to try to close some obvious loopholes. Head for Points reports that BA has noticed distorted booking patterns in response to how things were originally worded. This includes the one opportunity I've previously discussed, where one person books their flight and all of the accommodation for the group. The others book their flights separately. You then contact the hotel to let them know that more people are coming than perhaps shows up on the booking, something that happens to hotels quite regularly. and by doing so the person booking the holiday gets all of the new tier points from the accommodation cost rather than them being shared around. BA's wording now expressly forbids this. Indeed, it suggests that they will force hotels to police bookings on their behalf and will remove all tier points if they suspect any booking irregularities. Next, the opportunity to contribute to sustainable aviation fuels was widely touted as a way to gather new tier points. Heathrow Points has run a brilliant article about this, and it would seem that contributing to sustainable aviation fuels actually now means buying some sort of carbon offset equivalent to the effect of using sustainable aviation fuel. I can't improve upon perfection, so I'll just quote from the Heathrow Points article. It's the same as giving your child £5 for their school lunch, which is then spent on ice cream at the local newsagent. When you question this, your child tells you that the £5 was used to purchase the calorific attributes associated with a school lunch. Genius there from Rob. But the biggest air swing in the new scheme's rollout concerns BA's relationship with Amex. Up to 2,500 new tier points were promised by putting spend through your co-branded Amex card, enough to get you 1/3 of the way to Sapphire, which is silver status. But the club has now launched, and BA is yet to tell us how much you'll need to spend, which is borderline incredible. It's rumoured that Amex has lost a lot of customers from these changes. I remain enthusiastic about collecting and spending avios, so will still pursue my annual companion voucher to maximise the value I can get from those avios. But I've heard from a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, who've torn up their Amex cards as they just don't want anything more to do with BA. And as all of this is coming right after a 50% increase in the spending required to trigger that companion voucher, it's perhaps no surprise that Amex is not happy. But for them to be so unhappy that BA has not been able to announce an absolutely fundamental cornerstone of their new programme is outrageous. Heathrow Points has suggested that there may be a newspaper article published before you watch this which shines a light on what's actually happening here. So all in all, it's quite a shambles. Other airlines report a strong take-up of status matching offers, but there's been no hint of any backtracking from BA, so they seem to be set on a strategy of brinkmanship with their loyalist customers and with some of their most significant commercial partners. Brilliant stuff, BA. I feel those of us not sticking around are well off out of the club. So service began with a drinks round. No menus today, but I'm not sure they're routine on a flight this short. I went for a gin and tonic and got 2. It was a lightly loaded flight, remember, with a packet of salted rosemary snack mix. Cheers. Then the mains were offered. I went for the shepherd's pie, and I honestly can't remember the 2 other options offered. There were no menus, remember, which I accompanied with a bottle of Primitivo wine, which also brought a friend with them. I don't usually feature footage of me eating, but as with a lot of catering provided by Doe & Co on departures from Heathrow, the pie was really delicious. It was followed by a serving of Doe & Co's chocolate pud, which was also excellent. I hope BA hasn't upset Doe & Co with all of these changes, as the food is about the best thing about the airline right now, and the crew were really good that evening, as usual. I could have had more booze after the meal, but I'd had enough by now, so just savoured the wine for the rest of this shortish 90-minute flight, and we descended into a gloomy Barcelona to land a whole 30 minutes early. So it was a good flight, as they usually are on BA, except of course when it comes to the seat being far too cramped to belong in a premium cabin. I'll still fly with them, mostly when I'm redeeming my avios, as I did on this occasion. I paid about 32,000 avios and £13 for this flight, and a return in economy class a few days later, which was ever so slightly better value than buying the fare for cash, so on this occasion I didn't really get a bargain by using my avios. And I'll happily fly BA on future paid tickets. I just won't be crediting these flights to BA's new club. If flying on BA offers me an efficient and cost-effective route to status with another airline, I'll happily take it. But as I've said before, BA has told me they don't want my business, and I am not going to force it on them, certainly not under these conditions. Hey, those lounges will be really quiet for those who do stick around. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give the video a like if you did, and please consider subscribing. And if you'd like to come and join me the next time I do one of these random meetups, check out my Patreon account. The link will be in the description below. So I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.